We are.
Well, welcome to TTAC. We'll call the meeting to order. Let's start off today just with going around the room with introductions. And for those of you who are joining us virtually, we will make time for you as well. So let's start with that.
I'm Sherry Levers. I'm the grant administrator for the Omaha Metro Transit.
I'm Todd Pitzer with the Douglas County Engineer's Office.
Joe Susie, Elizabeth Public Works.
I'm Shane Kunle. I work with the city of Bellevue and their public works.
John Krager, City of Bellevue.
Craig Walker, NDOT Strategic Planning. Brian Guy, City of Omaha Public Works.
Jim Borden from MAPA.
Court Barber with MAPA.
Michael Blank MAPA.
Eric Williams, Popularity.
Matt Cox, Council Bluffs Public Works.
State of Nebraska DOT District 2.
Austin Ruther, City of Omaha.
Carlos Morales, Matt.
Go to the back of the room. Travis on my DOT.
Laura Heilman, Napa. Alex Higgins,
Very good. Do we have any online members that would like to introduce themselves?
Greg, you. People on there. Oh, sorry, we didn't mean to interrupt you.
Good morning, Greg Ewell, Felsberg, Holton, Olivig.
Joan Green, ENA.
Jeff Subject, City of Omaha.
Andy Wicks, City of Council Bluffs, Public Works.
Thanks, everybody.
Very good, thank you. Let's go ahead and jump into our agenda. Looks like we've got quite a few things to talk about today. So first off, you have a copy of the minutes from our February 16th meeting. Is there any discussion with regard to those minutes, or is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve. We have a motion from Joe. I second that. All those in favor of the motion to approve those, say aye. Aye. Opposed, any sign? Hearing none. Moving to our recommendations, we have amendment 4 to the 2024 TIP. If Michael can present that.
Yeah, this is a very long amendment, so bear with me, I can go through all the projects. Starting at the top with control number updates, Douglas County project for a bridge replacements, Cuming Street and Alcorn River. Well, some slight funding adjustments, but overall they weren't too major, as well as a description update. So the main thing was just the control number was added to that one. Then we had a David Pillion project for a phase adjustments, which since the phase adjustment for STBG MAPA PE NEPA funding moved from 2024 to 2026, as well as. Sorry, other way around, 26-24, wow. Too early for me, I guess. Control number added, script, and as well as a description update change on the scope, just because it was sort of, in terms of length, it was halved along 6th Street, instead of going from 72nd to 96, it's now 72nd to 84th. For Omaha, we have a new project added, which was in the previous tip, which was the N64 linked to a K corridor study. The project was added with the from 2023 to 2028 with STBG MAPA funding for general planning in 24. We have a new project from Omaha, which is the Stars Expressway Swartzen Park resurfacing, which is an resurfacing project added to the tip with local funding of 10,000, P NEPA added to 24, as well as a 8 million Utilcons E added for 25. Then we have an additional fiscal impact project from Douglas County, which is the Elkhorn River Trail Bridge, which has the tip with TAP state funding of 320,000 NEPA for 24 and 80,000 row for 25, and 4 million Utilcons E for 26. We have some more fiscal impact projects from the state, from local, 2 from City of Omaha, which are significant infrastructure projects, which had the control number added. And then a City of Bellevue that also had a control number added for the Fort Crook Road Bridge feasibility. 20 increase from Omaha for the 24th Street streetscape improvement projects, which had discretionary funding increased, from some slight discretionary funding increase for PE NEPA in 24, with additional local funding, slight local funding increases We had the control number added and description updated for that streetscape project. We had a funding source change, NDOT for the US 275 72nd Street, which had the UTOCONS EBRI funding change to NHPP, with the project moving forward from 27 to 25. We had phase adjustment from Omaha for the Blackstone streetscape, phase adjustment for discretionary NEPA moved from 23 to 24, as well as the location description update to reflect the project moving from Farnham to Harney. Then we had additional new projects from Douglas County for the Western Douglas County Trail, which adds the tip with the state TAC funding of 320,000 PNEPA, some road and construction for 26. Then we had two projects moved from the tip, both from NDOT. One was a project on I-480 bridges from Woolworth Street to Mary's Ave, which is being delivered on a new control number, and another one on US 75 from Chandler Road to F Street, Omaha, which is also being delivered under a new control number.
And we don't actually have those new control numbers yet. I don't believe we have those new programs. Those projects programmed, still waiting on the state to provide those. I don't know if those are gonna be provided still this year or those will end up in the new tip, but we're working with NDOT on making sure that we've got that, those properly programmed. But right now, basically, those projects are just dropping out because they're not gonna be delivered under the same heading. But with that, we're asking for a recommendation to the board to approve the amendment.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Don't know if I should bring this up. I don't want to expose myself necessarily, but the Elkhorn River Trail Bridge listed under Douglas County, can somebody? What is that?
Yep, Happy NRD project, actually.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's the bridge on the south side of Maple from the rec area across
Okay.
Waterloo.
That I know about.
Yeah, okay. Oh, it's the lead agency.
Oh, so it's NRD.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Yeah. We're trying to this county. Okay, yeah, we can update that.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, we'll make that change in there. You want to nice town.
Just, like, why don't I know about that? Okay. With that, I will propose to approve this tip amendment. I'll second. Morris, there's a second. We have a motion and a second to approve tip amendment 4. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. But that one's in the books.
All right.
The draft map of 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. The public comment period is open, and Carlos is going to bring us up to speed on that.
On a yearly basis, we're required by the state of Nebraska, Craig, and the state of Iowa, Travis, to provide a unified planning work program. Basically, this takes consideration of how we spend our planning dollars within the region. The document lays out what we're intending to spend on, how we're intending to spend on it, etc. So next slide, please. Overall, this covers the fiscal year 2025. For us, it means July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Just a high level, like initial draft on the budget. This accounts for about 2.6 million for staff activities, 5.8 million in contracts and subrecipients, with an 8.4 million overall budget. The draft will be available later on that website. Any questions, comments? Before I move on, okay. Hearing none, next slide. So this is kind of taking the long 50+ document and kind of honing in on some of the key important things. There's not a lot of change. We are still doing a lot of work towards our long-range transportation plan, which is due in a year from November. So there's a lot of initial planning work that needs to take place. You'll hear about it later today with regards to our travel demand model and some of the work that needs to get done in order to verify, update the base years, et cetera, to doing initial inventories and analysis of what's been going on in the transportation system. So a lot of our staff time and work will be focusing in on developing the long-range transportation plan. Another key caveat for this year is the initiation of the Safe Streets for All. That will require a lot of work and effort from our staff and others within our team to get that project going, moving. For additional questions about that, ask Jim. And then traditionally, we continue to do work with regards to complete streets for local communities. And then the last three are kind of data and GIS specific. We're taking on federal functional classification, which we talked about in this committee. That's gonna go into next year's budget, and a good bulk of the work is gonna go through there, along with our verifying and updating our travel demand models. Again, requiring a lot of ingress and ingestion of big data, traffic data, and additional information that is needed for that. Next slide. Some of the continuing studies. So these are the studies that we currently have on our plate this fiscal year, but are going to bleed into next fiscal year. Many of the projects we take on have a long window and horizon for completion. We staff the AMP plan from La Vista, Fort Crook, just getting kicked off, and potentially the Beltline State in the city of Omaha. We continue to do work on our congestion mitigation, air quality, with regards to little steps and our travel demand management, marketing. So these are kind of the main contractual studies that we're taking on. I did not list all the new ones that we have potential to take on because we don't necessarily know. It depends on this committee and what gets approved in the project selection. So some of the projects that this MAPA administers are from the Heartland mini grant. So part of that will expand this list in the next month or so. Once we get a clear picture, we can update it, but right now is to be determined as none of the decisions are made. Next slide. Additional sub-recipients, we can request for some of the work that we do with regards to 5310, all the different cities and nonprofits that are using transportation services that require 5310 funding. This is for seniors and those who experience disabilities. MAPA also does some pass-through funding to similar local agencies. This year, the city of Omaha's planning department bowed out and did not submit an application. But the ones that we do have are the Metro Public Works to continue doing some work on signal analytics, and then GIS for all three counties with regards to doing data and maintenance of GIS. And then the secondary aspect, a little interesting nuance that I want to point out is all three counties are partnering to develop an AI deep learning experience and enhancement to understand some of the changes that are coming through our annual ortho flights that we do. The hope is that we'll be able to garner that computing power, the AI, to be able to do some of our more routine work. On a yearly basis, I don't think Owen's here, but as part of our report, we go through painstakingly comparing footprints for housing to understand what changes have happened in the housing landscape in terms of commercial footprints, et cetera. One concept and idea is that being able to train this AI model to read these images would help resolve some of these ongoing requirements that we have to do. We're also looking at how to use this to develop sidewalk inventories and getting down to the level of looking at pavement conditions, but potentially sometime in the future. So those are kind of exciting things on the GIS side. Next slide.
Carlos, real quick, who is Black Hills Works or what is it? Black Hills Works is they're a service that basically connects people with disabilities with employment. They are, forget exactly where they're headquartered, but a lot of their program has been working with Office, various job placement, job placement capacities, and they're an eligible 5310 recipient because of that, the nature of the work that they do. Thank you.
Next slide. So a little quick update on timelines. We are working on our draft UPW, which is due to the state at the end of this month. We get to take a little reprieve in April as we don't have anything to do, but that's during the time when we're accepting public comments and trying to understand what the public has to say about this UPWP. Later in May, we're gonna come back to you for the final approval. And then at the end of May, it has to be submitted to our state partners at Nebraska and Iowa. Then looking ahead, this committee will have to look at the draft tip, which is due to the state mid-June, and then the final tip in July. So there's dependencies amongst all these different documents and requirements that we have. So just trying to give you a heads up. Please don't miss the meeting, TTAC meeting, as we need forums so that we can approve our UPWP. Don't miss our June meeting, as we have a draft tip due, and then finally don't miss July. So 4 important months.
You're basically handing out money in June. So
Yeah.
If you're gonna show up, that would be good. That'd be a good one to go for.
That's a good one. Next slide. I think that's it. That's the motion before you. I'll take any questions.
We have a motion to recommend.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to our discussion items here, passenger rail updates by Michael Blank.
Oh, cool. So very briefly, since the last IIJA bill, the FRA was tasked with basically doing a study on Amtrak long distance services, particularly services that are longer than 750 miles, and look at both, evaluate the existing routes for improvements or ways to improve the existing services, as well as routes that could be added to improve connections, as well as rural sort of, connections to the network. Both MAPA and IODOT staff have participated in meetings and provided public comments for this service study so far. The latest draft, which I sort of put in a zoomed in version for Iowa, Nebraska right there, includes sort of some additional routes added to both Nebraska and Iowa. These are drafts that the FRA has proposed in sort of cooperation with the MIPRC, which I'll discuss briefly a bit later. For routes that eventually be presented to sort of Congress for their findings, what can be added. They have one additional meeting in June, which they'll discuss these sort of evaluated routes and see if there should be any adjustments made. And to that end, public comments are still accepted at that link below, which we also have sort of in the agenda, which was given out previously. And for a, sorry, there we go. And there's the sort of the entire nationwide map for, I guess, interest, which is also available on the FRA's website.
So the shaded colored lines are existing lines. All the coloring is the new proposal from this study at this time. So these are potential new additions to long distance freight passenger routes. With some of them garnering a lot of attention, specifically some of the south east corridors were of interest. Also some of the southwest and those to Chicago connections to other locations as well.
The main thing of note, of course, is that they propose to add a route to Omaha, to Des Moines, as well as new connections to western Nebraska. Now, since I mentioned the MIPRC, this is I guess a very brief way to describe it, sort of like an MPO for the Midwest, if it was focused exclusively on passenger rail. It was interstate compact formed in 2000 to support sort of transportation agencies, the FRA and Amtrak on project study and development. The reason why I mentioned this recently, besides the study which they're sort of in cooperation with the FRA on for that long distance study, is that Iowa is at the moment considering rejoining the MIPRC. I don't know how long it'll take them to specifically join, but currently the legislature is currently in operation to possibly join the MIPRC. Last update, which I just found out until literally a few days ago, is that the IODOT is currently undergoing a Interstate Rail Plan update for both freight and passenger rail. It's expected to be completed in 2025, and IODOT plans to have a survey to TTAC probably in May, which will garner feedback sort of on focuses they should look at for the study. And I asked them for clarification, since we have members in our committees are both Iowa and Nebraska, whether or not both sides can comment. And their understanding is at the moment, yes, that both sort of TTAC representatives from Iowa and Nebraska can comment on the survey once it comes out in May.
Questions, comments on that? Item E is court's gonna present our 2050 LRTP update.
Yeah, so I just want to briefly go over kind of what we're looking at. So MAPA, we're currently involved in updating our long-range transportation plan. If you'll recall, we did this back in 2020. We've got to do an update of it every 5 years. And we're coming up on that deadline. So 2025 is the deadline. We were shooting for the end of this year, which was good because it's actually, I feel like it's kind of put us ahead on a lot of the tasks that we need to accomplish. We've been working on kind of like background of existing conditions. The big thing that we're focused on right now is kind of starting to put together the project list and the financial plan. It really is kind of the meat of the document. It's basically the implementation of all of the goals and strategies that we set up in the LRTP. And we started working on that earlier this year, and we would like to have a pretty solid project list by midsummer. And because a lot of that is going to go into our travel demand modeling. So in order to actually get going on the real meat of the modeling, we need to have the project list kind of fairly well set. And we want to be able to knock that stuff out kind of as we go in through I guess the fall and winter, kind of near the end of the calendar year. We want to kind of have most of that modeling stuff, if not wrapped up, well on its way, so that we can actually kind of put the final touches on the plan. What does that mean for all of you? Well, we're going to need your help because we're going to be talking to all of you quite extensively about what projects we need to show in the LRTP. A lot of that's going to be very focused on the next 5 years. We do have to fiscally constrain the first 5 years of the LRTP. We're not changing the horizon year. It will remain 2050. So we're anticipating that a lot of those outer year projects will probably hang around. We don't know how much, all of the jurisdictions are thinking about changing some of your long-term goals, but that's what we're going to talk to you about. And we will have, I guess you could say, some guiding materials to provide to you probably pretty soon, where we'll basically say, this is what we've got in there now. This is what we see from some of your other planning documents that we've kind of helped work with you on, as well as the stuff that we've reviewed, and then ask you, is all of this accurate? We'll probably want to set up meetings so we can kind of go through some of this stuff in case you have questions, that sort of thing. We just wanted to get you kind of primed for some of this work, because we'll want to start moving on this pretty soon, and with the goal of kind of having a project list pretty well set by midsummer. If we need to move into late summer, it's probably all right, but our goal is July of this year right now. Any questions? I don't know if anybody else from MAPA staff wants to add anything to that. I've checked all the boxes there. Sounds like I did. I think that's all I've got.
Okay. We're gonna do a travel demand model update. Good morning, please.
All right, great. Very much following up on what Court just talked about. Real high level overview, I think most are aware, but our travel demand model is an input into the long range transportation plan. It is required as an MPO for us to do. And the last time we did this, of course, was our update to the LRTP 2050 back in 2022. So you'll see on the map on the right there, that just illustrates the existing traffic analysis zones in that network, which the model runs on. I think unique for this year, we're gonna really take a look at those traffic analysis zones and where we need to kind of split them. Some of those larger ones, for example, in Western Sarpy County, might be ones that look at and say, how can we more accurately reflect and measure the changes that we're seeing on our transportation system based upon development, current and or future development in those regions. So the high level numbers, I guess these are what as projects are being developed, of course, that go into input into your requests. And as Court said, we'll be sticking with the horizon year of 2050. The base year from 2015 to 2022 is pretty significant. There have been some fairly large, both on the state highway system as well as in your regions, work that has been undertaken. So I'll put it on the next list. This is the plug. We really want to make sure that that transportation network represents as accurately as possible our existing conditions, and that we have data that talks about how that system operates. So the traffic count data will be going all the way through 2023. And I would say if you have good 2024 counts and you want to give us on a location that hasn't had a count for a while, we will take that as well. There are currently 806 traffic analysis zones. We're right now scoping for up to an additional 50 if need be. I don't know if we'll get that far, but we really do want to make a conscious effort to look at the model and how it operates and represents transportation growth in our region. And then finally, as Court said, we'll include for future road projects, we really need anything from 2023 onward through that horizon year 2050. So as Court said, we need your help. We're looking for locally funded projects in particular through 2022 that wouldn't already be in our TIP. I guess I would say, please don't worry about wondering on your own if it matters or not to the model. We'll take it and we'll put it in there. The items on the right are all the information we would look for those completed and or future locally funded projects. We'll put this all in a form for you to kind of collect all of that information. But these are the things that are inputs to the model, and of course, therefore, make changes as we run the model for future years. And then finally, for traffic counts, we will take anything as it goes into an input in our traffic report or just other big picture understanding of the region. But for this purpose in particular, we'd be looking for counts on a segment. We want to understand traffic volumes on the network, and really 24-hour counts would be a minimum there. Anything longer than that would just improve the accuracy a little bit, so we're looking for those 24-hour segment counts. We're in the thick of it. We're updating the parcel data right now, and we'll be working through the model over the summer into the winter. I know that there are several projects, both studies and construction projects, that are asking for input from our model right now. So if you do have those, we'd like to add them to the list. A number of those studies, for example, we use the older model. We'll get those results, we'll put them in, and then we're going to validate when the model is available here later this year. So if you need those services as well, please let us know. That helps us do our estimating for what we would potentially be able to take on with our modeler within MAPA, or would make a recommendation to add to your project, or potentially look at our upcoming master services agreement. And again, as Carlos talked about, one of our projects would be to look to provide planning services for our member jurisdictions. That is what I had to present. If there are any questions. All right, thank you for the questions.
So, Court, I have to ask you, I don't know if it makes up your agenda, but the next The next item is underlined. Should I read that differently or?
No, that's a link to, and that's Jim.
Oh, it's a link? Okay. Okay.
You can read it with hoops.
Well, I wanna make sure I get it right. I didn't notice it was underlined, so. Item G, Jim is gonna provide an update to our safety grant opportunity, the Iowa Traffic Safety Grant.
Great. So this one came across, like all of us, we see information coming through. This is a funding opportunity for safety improvements, and we sent it out with the meeting packet, as well as wanted to give the opportunity to talk about it here. The Iowa Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau, again, as listed there, provides funded highway safety funds, and this grant opportunity is pretty broad. I will say what funds they use oftentimes come from NHTSA, so there are some requirements on how they apply that funding. And in particular, this year, they're making a priority vulnerable road user improvements, although that wouldn't be necessarily a limitation here. The eligible projects are listed on the left. And then just to kind of provide a highlight again, this is Carlos talked about, we just kicked off our Safe Streets and Roads for All planning, which includes communities in Iowa. And also there's a pretty broad range of work that was done in the Vulnerable Road User Safety Assessment, which is an appendix to Iowa DOT's Strategic Highway Safety Plan, as well as we're in the process of developing our grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation for a Safe Streets and Roads for All planning grant for 7 communities. They have a population over 2,500, and for Iowa, what that means is the counties and Iowa DOT don't have oversight of the local roads, and so it's just a very focused effort to look at local road safety plans for those 7 communities. It does close on the 30th of this month, so realize that comes short. The highlight being with our Safe Streets and Roads for All plan that we're doing right now, our goal is to put together a list so that we can share that with all of you, but also get some best practice and some guidance to say if you would like to apply for a grant like this or others, here's how other folks have been successful. So we'll hopefully have more of that in our planning in coming months. Any questions on this grant opportunity?
We got a call for projects with our 2025 tip. We're going to give us an update on the project selection.
Yep. Just wanted to make sure everybody's, I'm keeping the whole group kind of up to speed on where we are on project selections. We just had our first meetings, TTAC and PROSCOM last week. Everything went pretty well. Things are moving very quickly. They just about have decisions, which I was quite impressed with. So we probably will have a good idea of how the program is going to look at the April TTAC meeting. So we're well on our way to being able to develop that draft tip in May, and then final tip in June, with award letters coming out in July, just as we had planned. So the Harlan 2050 mini grant committee, that's still to meet next week, but we don't anticipate a whole lot of hold up from them. We're figuring they probably won't be the second meeting. And the other 2 committees probably need one more meeting to kind of finalize everything. I think that's all I had. Any questions for anybody on project selection right now?
I'll just make a quick comment because I am on the TTAC committee that MAPA did a really nice job breaking everything down, putting together some scenarios. The meeting went very well. I was like very impressed with the progress that was made, and we got a couple questions for our friends in Belford and Suffolk County that we're going to work out. And then, I think we had 2 or 3 more possible meetings, which last year we did have to go through.
Yeah, we used 3 meetings the last time we did project.
Yeah, and this year, I think 1 more meeting we're going to have it wrapped up. So it's been a very good process.
And overall, I think one of the things that Court and others mentioned was this year we've received over how many comments?
Over 300.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Kind of set out the rest of the meeting materials over there. We actually have the whole packet of public comments that we got on project applications. We got 317 responses to our survey, which was pretty impressive. We've never had quite that much of a response at the MPO level before.
So from came from people on Center Street.
Yeah.
From the breakdown here, there's 3 projects that received a significant amount of comments. Yeah, Center Street, see that one. The third one over from the left is 192nd and Blondo.
Improvement study, yeah, that's a.
Study.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's what then led to the over sampling comments from the Elkhorn area on the back of that.
Most likely, yeah.
Okay, so that's a study. And then the last one, the Western Douglas Co.
As far as I'm counting trail study, that's another trail
study.
being done by
Okay, got it. Perfect.
The mini grant application.
Great, thank you.
And I wanted to thank Laura, who's but her team did a fabulous job announcing it and getting it on the news and media, which kind of garnered a lot of this attention. So thank you very much. That's all.
Any other questions or comments on the post-comment process? Okay, well, it is, it's only 10:35, so I think we have time permitting for member agency updates. Start around the room. Would you like to start with us?
Sure, you got an update. We've been receiving bids on some major updates that are going to be done to this structure. So hopefully in the next few meetings that you come to, you might have to work around construction a little bit. That would be good. And then we're also working really diligently to keep the routes moving and getting the passengers picked up. Our buses have had some mechanical issues that we can't get parts for still. So you will see some smaller Mobi buses on some of the fixed routes. But so far we're getting everybody, all the routes covered. So new buses, it'll be over a year yet before we can get it going.
I'll talk about our couple of projects that you might see in the news and certainly are going to have an impact on traffic flow, and that's 168th and State Street Bridge. We closed that intersection. We had one lake closed since fall. We'll close the other 3 April 1st. So around the corner of that intersection will be closed. And then we are going to start on 222nd and Q. We're going to build a roundabout there and pave that piece of 222nd to the north. So that will tie in with a paved road all the way up to Center and connect that, protect some of those houses that are recently built in there to the 7-figure range from the dust. So those are kind of the 2 major projects. Might be reaching out to some of you to find out what you're doing, or if anybody would like to discuss it in this meeting with the never-ending onslaught of fiber companies coming in. It's hard to manage. Not sure we're getting good as-built. Should we as a community be maybe talking about duct banks? I know we did duct banks on 168th Street. Should that be something more of a standard? So I'm open if anybody's recently talked about that or read anything or seen anything that they think would be real beneficial, I'll throw it out. That's all I have. Same time for you, Joe.
Not a lot's changed since last month. All the transportation work we're doing is in residential areas and parks. Been an amazing year though. 75% of our paving that we were gonna do this construction season is completed. Got done in last week of February through March. And yes, the telecommunication fiber stuff is a mess in our community. We actually suspended permits 2 different times over the last 6 months. That was it.
So for Bellevue, we are also in the pain of fiber optic. A lot of pain, and I agree with you, Todd, there probably should be some kind of a common duct bank for these groups, but it might be a little bit too late for something like that.
Well, it's definitely too late for a lot of the stuff that's already in the ground. Yeah.
And I thought I heard there was a company that was gonna come in and just put in duct bank. And I don't know how they're getting paid, but just put in duct bank, nothing else in it.
For those of you taking notes, this is like duct tape, it's not DUCK, it's kind of sense.
This is a duck bank.
Yeah.
A bank, yeah, they're gonna banks like Bitcoin. Wow. I don't know, I haven't heard anything more, it just came up. And then we have our 36th Street project should be bidding May of this year, and we're working with DOT right now on getting a CE on board.
No new updates from the planning.
This morning I was down the Platte River Bridge Trail, pouring the first concrete on the middle span, so glad to see that happening, having project moving forward. The Elkhorn Trail Bridge, we got the contracts approved by the Energy Board, so that one's moving forward to design, well, and there was an update in the tip about that project moving forward, so glad to have it moving.
Last round of bridge program for the DOT, we were eligible for 2 projects. Unfortunately, they will only award 1 project per year, so we're not able to do both projects. So next week, the city council will approve the 9th Avenue Bridge funding agreement, which I will send to you once we have that project.
Okay.
Other than that, kind of normal stuff.
Will you be starting on anything related to that this year? Will you be documenting funding this year, or is that future?
We'll do design, but locally funded, so.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I don't expect any
Okay.
obligation issues.
Okay, that works. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's see. The Highway 75-34 Plaska development bridges, all the bridge work is done, they're working, putting pile jackets on one of the bridges south of Platte River. And the last thing we have to do is permanent striping. You mentioned the Platte River Bridge Trail, they're here for a section of that today. I think we're gonna wait till noon.
No, they were out.
Oh, you came by.
Yeah, I came by to look at it, yeah, it's looking good.
I was swinging down there after I get out of here.
Yeah.
See, I-480 bridges, 20th and Missouri River, the overhead sign structure in the first week in April will close lanes on I-480.
Go ahead.
Okay, just to prep, just to set things up. And then the second week of April, there'll be an overnight closure of 480, both eastbound and westbound, to set the structure. So that's coming up. Let's see, Kennedy Freeway, northbound Q to F. We still have to do the permanent striping that'll coming up as soon as the weather cooperates. North Freeway, Hamilton to the Fort. Right now they finished Parker Street and Binney and Lake spraying. All the bridge work's done on all those. They're all open. Bristol Street is closed and they're working on the repairs there. It's completely closed. And it should be done by mid-June. We're gonna start milling and overlaying again once the weather breaks on 75 down below. And we still have a few bridges to paint. We'll wait till the weather's right for that. And then, okay, April 5th at 7 p.m. to April 8th, 6 a.m. We're gonna close all traffic, 75 traffic. It'll be detoured up and down the ramps at Hamilton. So they can tether the bridge gap off there. So they'll have a whole weekend to get it done. Highway 50, 370 to L Street. That started up right now. They've got traffic on the bridge in West Patio on Millard Ave. They've got traffic head to head in the southbound lane.
Or noticed that.
Southbound lanes.
Thanks.
And I think Monday, we're gonna do the same thing up on the bridge over 370. But we're not gonna have it head to head. We're gonna separate them, do the inside, then move them back, and then do the outside. And that's the Highway 50. And then once we get started up there, we'll be going all the way from 370 all the way into L pavement repairs, some new pavement, widening, turn lanes at Harrison. And it's, I avoid that area really. I can go there, because I'm at work. I can drive by way back.
The only way to get to my office.
Yeah. Okay, here we go, 192nd dots. We got that kicked off.
Big article in the paper.
Yeah. Carl has got, it's a whole, we're gonna put in that, diverging diamond intersection. And, right, the grading and pipe work is proceeding in the northwest quadrant. They're putting down the temporary pavement. We're gonna put all the traffic on the northbound lanes head to head. And then we'll get that more. We got a couple other ones gonna be starting up here. I-80, 60th Street to 24th. It's gonna start April 29th. That's pavement repair. Mill and overlay is both eastbound and westbound. That'll be night work. 9 p.m. to 6. And then one more we're starting on April 29th is a cable guardrail that goes from Mahoney Park to Highway 370. It's in the median. So we shouldn't bother anything there. But that's all I got.
Very good, thank you, Martha.
You guys are out. Baby Bob Bridge is coming along. That's a nice little project for us. We started setting girders last week, so it's getting pretty real, pretty close. Cool. Got some kind of little basketball tournament we're coordinating around right now. Oh, 168th, you know, with the nice weather, we were able to make a lot of progress in the last month. So Hawkins is doing a really nice job moving forward that project. A lot of walls set, a lot of grading done, a lot of removals coming along. So it's looking good. We had a task order at City Council on Tuesday for our downtown corridor study. That was for a consultant. JDO is going to do the work for us on that. And Brian passed on the signal infrastructure project, so I wasn't about that. That's great, you know, we're moving along. And then one thing that's coming up for us, you may already see some Hawkins trucks down on 72nd Street. That bridge project is supposed to start April 1st. We didn't do the best job with public outreach on that, so we're kind of scrambling to make sure everybody's in the know about it. But April 1st, that will start in earnest. The northbound lanes will be closed. So plan accordingly on that. Southbound will remain open, northbound will be closed.
So you're not doing head to head, you're just shutting down. Okay.
I gotta find a new way home.
Yeah, I was gonna cut you off, but it's kind of funny now, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah. I'm not taking anything on that.
That's all I really got.
I don't have anything from MAPA except give us your data and let us know what projects we need to include and keep an eye on. That is kind of first and foremost on my mind, how we're gonna update this long-range transportation plan. A lot of dependencies here, and I can't stress enough, we have a lot of different things and requests that are coming your way. So one is data and information about projects locally funded. Mainly, did you add turn lanes? Did you remove a signal? Is that reflected in your GIS maps? Whether your GIS maps are maintained internally or through county sources, how do we get access to that data and information so that we can give you and provide you the best available information that we can? So that's, I guess, biggest kind of thing weighing on my mind. Yes, this safety and regional safety action plan is going on. We will be reaching out to many of you regarding that in the coming months. I am super excited about that plan, super excited to get everyone's input and having a dedicated funding source that will that is outside our traditional funding sources that can really make an impact systemically in the region. So that is one of the key things that we're looking at with this safety action plan, developing systemic safety criteria and projects that we can fund throughout the region. Having one project to solve one intersection is great. However,
having 200 intersections fixed all at once really will make a dent on some of these fatal and severe crashes that we're seeing throughout the region. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, there's been a lot more crash reports in the news lately, a couple pedestrians, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not stopping, and so we have to intervene and find ways to resolve some of these concerns and issues. And I think next up, Laura, do you have anything for the Heartland 2050 mini grant or site visit that you want to mention, or?
Yeah, we're planning a site visit to Charlotte, North Carolina, May 6th through 9th. We've got a couple people in the room who've been invited and who will hopefully attend that. So I don't know what else you want me to say though.
No, that's it.
So pretty much we just take a group of about 20 people from throughout the region and kind of just experience what they've been doing in Charlotte and learn from them and bring back some ideas.
Since we have a couple new public works directors, if you haven't joined in any of those before, feel free to contact Laura to get additional information about it and how to participate. Great times are always had at these events, but it's a lot of learning and a lot of information and hands-on experience. Seeing how other cities, communities, locations have developed their transportation and or regional planning efforts. I think that's it for me. Did I miss anything, y'all? No? Okay.
Is there anything else from the back of the room there? Any agency updates that anybody back there would like to give, or?
Yeah, I got a few. FHWA Iowa will be nothing planner for the state of Iowa soon. We know who it is, but he hasn't announced it yet, so we're waiting on that, but just be ready for that announcement to come soon. Why that's of note, urban area boundary, that review has gone very slow. We still have a couple months for that to really kick in, but we're kind of just waiting on that right now to get the boundaries approved by the feds, so just waiting for a little bit of patience there. Iowa DOT is working with Council Bluffs on their streetcar tunnel project, just making sure that a lot of the various compliance issues are going to be met, because it's obviously going to be a new project for the state of Iowa if that takes place. This summer, there will be, FHWA and Iowa DOT will be doing equity reviews for the peer reviews for all MPOs statewide. So they're trying a new thing with reviews. Instead of every 4 to 6 years, they want every year to have kind of a topic where all MPOs are kind of talking together about various things that they're working on. So this year, the topic will be equity and environmental justice. So that'll be kind of something that'll be done this summer. And then it's just TIP and TPWP season. So obviously pretty busy at the DOT with that, so.
With the delays in the federal side of approval, does that mean Iowa's gonna push back their deadlines of September?
As far as we know, it's still September.
Okay.
As far as project updates, I don't really have anything new other than they're continuing to work on Madison Avenue on the Counts Bluffs Interstate project.
Anything else from the east end of the room? No? Okay, so that wraps up our agency updates. So additional business, I want to just thank MAPA for all your hard work. And you guys got a lot of balls in the air. We appreciate it. I appreciate your good communication and the timeliness. You sending out the survey, for example, you know, you had deadline on there, meet by when. It was very user friendly. Just appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you for that. There's some future meetings and events here real quick. I'm not gonna read them. I'm assuming everybody in the room can get their hands on an agenda. So is there anything else that anybody would like to talk about before we potentially adjourn?
MAPA doesn't have something else.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So if there is a motion to adjourn, we will wrap this up. Joe, second by Austin Rouser, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.